Oil is not just energy. Sometimes it is power itself. Right now, the world is watching a quiet confrontation, not between nations, but between politics and reality. This week, America's top oil executives enter the White House. They face President Trump, and his demand is simple: bring Venezuela's oil back fast. Trump believes production can surge. He believes 18 months is enough to restart wells, enough to prove control, enough to send a message to the world. But behind closed doors, the industry tells a different story. A cautious story, a conditional story. Yes, they say, but Venezuela is not a machine you restart. It is a system damaged by sanctions, scarred by instability, held back by fear and broken trust. Executives are willing to offer more oil, hundreds of thousands of barrels, but only if Washington moves first. If you want to understand how power truly works, why markets resist commands, and why ambition often crashes into reality, stay with me. And consider subscribing for deeper analysis. Because before outcomes, we must define the problem itself. At the center of this story is a simple question: who really controls oil? Is it the president who issues commands, or the market that answers only to risk and return? Venezuela holds some of the largest oil reserves on earth. On paper, it should be rich. In reality, it is fragile. President Trump sees oil as leverage, economic leverage, geopolitical leverage, a way to stabilize supply and project strength. But the industry sees something else. They see sanctions that choke production. They see infrastructure left to decay. They see legal uncertainty and a country whose future leadership is still unclear. This is why executives are careful. They are not refusing to help. They are redefining what help means. Not billions of dollars, not massive rebuilding, not yet. Instead, they propose a narrow goal, a limited increase, using what already exists, a first step, not a comeback. This tension matters because it reveals a deeper truth. Oil is never just about oil. It is about systems, and systems move slowly. To understand why Venezuela reached this point, we need to look backward at how a global energy powerhouse fell so far, so fast. To understand this collapse, we have to rewind time. Before ideology, before sanctions, before today's urgency. In the late 1990 seconds, Venezuela was an oil giant, more than 3 million barrels a day, a pillar of global supply, a country powered by competence, not slogans. Then came a shift. Politics moved into the oil fields. The state tightened control. Expertise slowly drained away. Investment stopped flowing. Maintenance stopped mattering. Technology fell behind. Oil production is not magic. It follows cycles, capital in, maintenance ongoing, stability guaranteed. Break that cycle and output collapses. By the time the United States moved against Nicolas Maduro, the damage was already deep. Production had fallen near 1 million barrels a day. The system was hollow. Sanctions did not create the collapse. They locked it in. Pipelines corroded. Refineries aged. Skilled workers left. This is the reality executives now face. Not an empty field waiting to be filled, but a complex machine missing key parts. And that brings us to the first breaking point. The moment politics collided head-on with physics, finance, and time, then came the pressure point. A closed-door meeting, a room full of power, and expectations hanging in the air. On Friday, energy executives sit across from President Trump, and they know what is coming. Speed, commitment, big promises. Trump wants certainty, timelines, numbers he can repeat. 18 months. Oil flowing again. A victory headline, but for the executives, This is a moment of risk. Not financial risk yet. Political risk. Say too little, and you disappoint the president. Say too much, and you trap yourself. So they choose a narrow path. They offer a phase one, not a rebuild, not a renaissance, just a squeeze, a few 100,000 barrels more, using existing wells, existing infrastructure, minimal investment, and even that comes with strings. Sanctions must ease, supplies must move, permissions must be clear. This is not defiance, it is survival. Behind the calm language is anxiety, fear of being forced into promises no system can keep. This is mini crisis one, not a collapse, but a standoff, because beneath the meeting lies a harder question. What is really blocking Venezuela's oil from returning? The real barrier is not oil, it is the system around it. Venezuela's fields still hold vast reserves. The oil did not disappear. What disappeared was reliability. Oil needs rules, clear contracts, protected assets, security on the ground. Without these capital freezes, sanctions matter. They restrict equipment, they block payments, they scare insurers and shippers. Even heavier is uncertainty. Who governs tomorrow? What laws will apply next year? Will investments be protected or taken? For major oil companies, this risk is unacceptable. They answer to shareholders. They plan decades ahead. This is why they hesitate, not because they lack interest, but because systems punish impatience. Yet not all capital thinks the same. Smaller firms accept higher risk. Private equity moves faster. They chase opportunity where others hesitate. This creates a split strategy. Phase one belongs to the bold and flexible. Phase two requires stability and trust. This is the hidden mechanism, not politics versus oil, but risk versus return. And once this mechanism is understood, the next escalation becomes inevitable, because ambition does not disappear when reality resists. Then comes the second surge of pressure, not louder, but sharper. President Trump repeats the timeline. 18 months, up and running, fully alive. From the outside, it sounds possible. From the inside, it feels reckless. Energy officials quietly push back. Lobbyists cool expectations. Physics refuses to negotiate. You cannot rebuild trust on a schedule. You cannot replace engineers overnight. You cannot modernize refineries by decree. This is mini crisis two. The collision between optimism and capacity. Executives respond carefully. They redirect the conversation, not toward billions, but toward permissions. Lift key sanctions, allow equipment to flow, let existing operators breathe. Chevron becomes the exception. It never fully left. It understands the terrain. It can grow incrementally. Others watch from a distance. Exxon, Conoco, waiting for rules, not rhetoric. The room grows tense because everyone understands the truth. Pushing harder does not move faster. It breaks things, and when pressure replaces patience, systems respond in only one way. They slow down even more. Now, the focus shifts to the people, to the human cost. What happens when oil doesn't flow? It's not just about barrels or dollars. It's about livelihoods. It's about families. It's about survival. Venezuela's oil industry once employed hundreds of thousands. Now, the oil fields sit dormant. The workers gone, the economy limps along. For every delay, a ripple. For every moment of indecision, another family suffers. It's the struggle for jobs, the fight for basic needs. The pain is felt in the streets, the desperate hope for any sign of stability, the promise of better days, the weight of a future that feels uncertain. This is where the industry faces its toughest question. How much responsibility do they bear for the people of Venezuela? Their plans, their investments, their deals, they all have consequences. They must decide if profit is enough or if they must act with purpose. Because in the end, when oil flows again, it is not just numbers on a chart. It is the lives of those who depend on it. This is where the real human cost of this crisis becomes undeniable. And it brings us to the question, what comes next for the world? The world is watching, and the impact of Venezuela's oil future extends far beyond its borders. The stakes are global. Energy is always political. Every decision ripples outward. If oil production in Venezuela surges, the effects are immediate. Global markets adjust. OPEC reacts. Prices shift. But the true consequences reach deeper. Beyond the financial, political alliances shift. Sanctions are redefined. New geopolitical players emerge. The US may control the narrative, but it can't control the consequences. And with this shift comes uncertainty. The question becomes, what happens when the world is no longer just reacting, but shaping the game? For Venezuela, the future looks different depending on which path it follows. 3 possible futures emerge. First, the sanctions lift, the oil flows, a slow but steady recovery, an incremental rebuild. This is the most optimistic scenario. Second, the industry stalls. The chaos of politics remains. Oil production stays below expectations. Uncertainty persists. Third, a collapse, another failure. The system cracks. No one willing to invest. The oil remains trapped beneath the surface. In each scenario, one thing is clear. Venezuela's future is tied to more than oil. It is about trust. It is about systems that either support or break down. And now we arrive at the final question. How do we move forward? What choice will the world make in the face of these competing forces? This is where we conclude for now. But the story is just beginning.